President Trump and Joe Biden talk about the vote counting process as the race tightens in several states.
Turnout among young voters seems to have impacted this election. We'll hear from some young voters in battleground states.
And 3 students put their social media knowledge to the test for this week's game of hashtag. You won't want to miss it. See It Live starts now.
Nearly 48 hours after polls closed across the country, there is still no clear winner in the race for the White House. I'm Brett Chody reporting from Los Angeles, California.
And I'm Leona Falk, also reporting from LA. Tonight, the counting of ballots is still happening in several states. As of Thursday night, Joe Biden still leads Trump with 264 electoral votes to President Trump's 214. Votes are still being counted in Alaska, Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Both candidates spoke today about the voting process.
In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners.
President Trump spoke at the White House claiming fraud in the ballot counting process. He says he is being cheated out of the election.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. That was done for suppression reasons, but instead there was a big red wave.
The Trump campaign has filed lawsuits in 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. The lawsuits demand better access for campaign observers to locations where ballots were being counted.
Many Gen Zers voted for the first time this election, and the results indicate how powerful their votes can be. Some USC students shared how they felt before Election Day.
What the election means to me is it's a time where people can get their voices heard, and it's a very important matter because we're basically setting up the rest of our 4 years in the United States.
This is an important election for me because as someone who's spent all of their teenage years with no trust in the government, this is my first chance to actually see what power I have.
I am a first-time voter for this election, so I've never voted before, even though I turned 18 before. But this election, more than anything, is kind of a chance for me to see whether I can honestly keep having hope in American people.
There were 10 million voters ages 18 to 29 this year, and 47 to 49% of them voted in 11 battleground states. Biden did the best in counties with the most young people.
It's making me feel, one, very stressed out, and I'm very frustrated because I don't know the outcome. And it's just making me feel like the country's more divided than I thought before on both Republican and Democratic sides.
With the current situation and how our current president is handling the results of the election, it's a bit bewildering and disappointing to see how our democratic process is getting ignored.
It did feel really empowering, and I was so happy that I got to be a part of this election, and voting was super important to me. So I made sure and I went and I did it in person.
Many college students in swing states are feeling serious election stress as the wait for election results drags on.
I've been focusing on happier news and wins that I can celebrate. So something that's really exciting for me is Ricky Hurtado won Alamance County in North Carolina, which I think is awesome, seeing like this Latino progressive candidate take over Alamance County.
Pennsylvania would be expected to, with the remaining votes coming in, is that there is a likely chance or a yes, a likely chance that it could go blue. It's been really, really encouraging to know that no matter which way the election swings, that I've got inspired and intelligent people around me. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in math and statistics, and the math shows at the rate that Biden is going, he is very likely to overturn Georgia. If he doesn't, he's even more likely to overturn Pennsylvania. My biggest fear is like seeing what happened like in Arizona or like in Detroit and seeing people like with guns like protesting, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And me being an Asian Jewish person, it's scary because it's like, oh my God, like I could potentially be a target and not know about it.
Looking at voters and how much they are engaged with this year's election, it doesn't seem like Trump is going to be able to come back. I'm not necessarily stressed, and so I think reminding myself of that is really helpful, like not getting my hopes up, not making assumptions about what's going to happen, but just patiently waiting. And, you know, when the votes are counted, the votes are counted.
It may be days, if not longer, before we have the final election results in all states.
Many voters around the country are celebrating a new rainbow wave of LGBTQ+ victories. We spoke to members of the LGBTQ+ community about what these milestone victories mean to them.
These people aren't just running on identity politics, which I think is something that is a common misconception among queer candidates. They just are tapped into a different experience that might educate them more or give them more perspective on certain policies that they're going to be fighting for.
It reminds legislators in office that these people are your peers, these people are your equals, these people are in the same spaces that you are, and so you can't speak about them like they don't exist. You can't make laws as if they don't exist if they're right there next to you. It takes away a lot of the avenues people have for erasing us and forgetting about us as individuals.
So I think regardless of how the election goes, I do feel like a little bit more comforted knowing that there has been so many diverse voices and individuals are now being able to have a voice in our government.
More than 1,000 LGBTQ candidates were on the ballot in 2020, a 41% increase from the 2018 midterm election. 31% of LGBTQ candidates identify as people of color, a significantly higher rate of diversity than the general candidate population, in which just 10% identify as people of color. A number of LGBTQ candidates made history this election. Some key players are Delaware's Sarah McBride. The Democratic candidate became the highest-ranking transgender elected official in the United States. New York Democrat Richie Torres was elected as the first openly gay Black member of Congress. And Oklahoma Democrat Marie Turner took more than 71% of the votes in the 88th district to become the first Muslim in the Oklahoma legislature and the first non-binary legislator in America.
A panel of experts talked about the validity of polling leading up to the election. The USC Center for the Political Future hosted the post-election conversation today.
I think there's a pretty big delta between issue polling and candidate polling, which could be part of our tribalism. So you don't know if people are telling the truth. You don't know who the new voters are, whether it was a Republican surge or more white independents decided to vote for Trump than the polls projected.
I don't think that it's a question of necessarily asking it the wrong way or the shy Trump voter. I think you guys got the turnout model all wrong. I think that you went with the idea that Democrats were going to come out because they were energized.
With the fate of the presidency down to less than 6 states, Americans are questioning the design of our country's democracy. We spoke with a UCLA professor about the history of the Electoral College and the future of this 200-year-old system of counting votes.
In the end, once all the votes are counted, that Joe Biden could be winning by 5, 6, maybe even 7 million votes of the popular vote, and that would seem to be a pretty clear distinction. It's precisely because of the Electoral College that we're all hanging here on the edge of our seat. And there's a strong sense that that is an anti-democratic, small d democratic way of choosing a leader. But on the other hand, if we didn't have an electoral college, who's going to campaign in Wyoming? Or who's going to campaign even in Arizona? Who's going to campaign in New Hampshire? Since rural America would be simply completely ignored in a presidential campaign if we didn't have an electoral college.
The election has caused a lot of stress and anxiety for many of us, but there are things you can do to help cope. A mental health expert says, in this unique case, staying off your phone might not help manage election anxiety.
Withdrawing from contact with media may increase anxiety, especially when you consider that anxiety is an emotional state that's provoked by uncertainty. In other instances, that is the thing to do. And it gives the student the opportunity to withdraw from something that's engendering a great deal of anxiousness, worry, agitation, stress, to focus on things that are less anxiety generating.
USC Counseling and Mental Health Services is offering election stress workshops to help students manage election anxiety. Sign up through the MySHR website for the workshops every Monday and Thursday at 5 through mid-November. If you can't make it to the workshops, here are some other stress management tips. Limit your news intake by deciding when and for how long you will check the news. Write out your stress and worries in a journal. California introduced 12 new statewide propositions on the ballot this year that require a majority vote to pass. Proposition 16 failed to gain majority support among California voters. The proposition would have reversed a statewide ban on affirmative action. Many California lawmakers supported the proposition as a measure to combat institutional racial inequity in public university admissions and public contracting. Parolees gained the right to vote with the passing of Proposition 17. Previously, California state prisoners and those on parole were prohibited from voting. The measure restores voting rights to about 50,000 parolees. According to today's unofficial tally, 59% of state voters supported the Proposition 17.
Uber and Lyft drivers will remain independent contractors with the passing of Proposition 22. The proposition exempts rideshare companies from state labor laws, which would force them to employ their drivers and pay for benefits. 2 USC student drivers had mixed feelings about the proposition passing.
I was telling a lot of people to vote no on Prop 22, so obviously I was pretty disappointed, but I can't really say I was surprised. There are some people that need to rely on driving for these services as a source of income, and there's going to be more people that need to in the future, as more and more people might lose full-time jobs and rely on part-time, and not guaranteeing them health insurance, not guaranteeing them unemployment insurance, and not guaranteeing them a minimum wage really decreases the kind of standard of this job.
I really was not surprised just because of the fact that it was so heavily advertised. I'm actually a full-time student, so I'm taking 16 units, so I can't, have a full-time job and be employed. It's really cool that I can, study and get all my classes done and then just go get some cash.
When Proposition 22 goes into effect in December, gig workers will go without access to minimum wage, unemployment, and health insurance benefits. But a legal expert says there will still be some benefits guaranteed to drivers in California.
Independent contractor issues have been one of the hottest topics in the workplace in the last 5 to 10 years. People who work for app companies under Prop 22, there will be some benefit entitlements that they will have a right to under California law, but it will not be the same. Proposition 22 is going to provide certain minimum pay, but it's not going to be something that is regulated by the generally applicable wage and hour laws.
Voters rejected Proposition 21 in California, meaning local governments will not be allowed to establish rent control on residential properties more than 15 years old. Annenberg Media's Camila Therdicus talked to residents about the financial and ethical ramifications of Prop 21.
California activists are trying to combat increasing rent prices and the lack of affordable housing in the state through Proposition 21.
It basically gives control back to communities to be able to address their own housing prices.
Proposition 21 would allow cities to place rent control on units over 15 years old. Cities would also be allowed to impose vacancy control. This would limit a landlord's ability to increase rent by only 15% over 3 years when a new tenant moves into a rent-controlled unit.
I think that we're done with Band-Aids, and I think that we need to actually go to the root of the problem.
Opponents say Prop 21 hurts small property owners. By reducing profits, some owners worry they won't be able to compete with corporate landlords.
It's expensive. Average costs for remodeling in San Francisco are around $1,000 a square foot.
We're not wealthy people, living on our yachts, as some people would like to think. We operate on very small margins.
Al Wong says construction is the answer.
We wouldn't have a problem with affordability if there was enough housing to go around.
Supporters of the measure disagree.
I don't think it's perfect, but I do think it's the right solution for right now.
For some members on each side, the fight goes beyond affordability.
The historic racism in our country that prevented my ancestors from buying property. And now that, we've been able to do that and enjoy relatively recent gains, all of that is being put in jeopardy.
At the end of the day, the vast majority of people in this state are renters, and they deserve to have a quality of life that is equitable and fair.
So, a yes vote supports expanding rent control. Voting no means rent control laws would remain the same. For Annenberg Media, I'm Camilla Thurdicus.
While Florida may be red, our last week winner, Emmanuel, was able to bring home a blue trophy back to Miami. Will this week have a clear victor? Find out in our game of Hashtagged. So how the game's gonna work is we're gonna go in 3 rounds. Each of these rounds will have one hashtag that was trending on Twitter as of this morning. What you guys are gonna do is guess how many times the hashtag was used. The person that guesses to the closest number will win that round, and then by the end, whoever had the most correct answers will be the hashtag champion. So, are we ready to play?
All right.
Yeah! Everyone's excited? All right.
Absolutely.
So the first hashtag that we have is election results 2020.
Okay, I'm gonna guess 320,000.
I was thinking like 1.5 million.
1.5 million. Okay, we're stepping up the counts here. Farda, what do you think? You gonna try to find a middle ground? Where does your brain go?
I'm not sure. That's what I'm currently debating, Cambria. You know what? No, I'm gonna up Taylor. I'm gonna go 10 million.
All right. You guys have a lot of faith in these Twitter users. I wish everyone was that civically engaged. Unfortunately, Bobby was the closest. The real count was 235.8 thousand. So not as you think, huh? The second hashtag is stop the count.
I'm gonna go with like 145,000.
All right.
That was close to my guess. All right, I'll just
Yeah,
say
okay.
I'll just say we'll go with 175,000.
Taking the high end of it, Taylor. I like it. All right, Fardad, where are you thinking?
How about 15K?
15K, low balling. Well,
Okay, you don't sound very confident about an answer. Can I go again?
You can't change.
Okay, please, can I change?
If you ask nicely, no. Unfortunately, Taylor will take that round. The correct count is 457,000, almost 458. So, even more than election results. A little bit shocking.
All right.
So we are 1 and 1.
Are you sure about this? Where are you getting your information from, Cambria?
I'm getting it straight from Twitter. I have my sources. Every good journalist does.
Fardad's gonna need to see that. He's gonna need to double check.
You're gonna need to send me your sources, Cambria, after we're finished recording.
Well, Fardad, you have one more chance to make this a 3-way tie. Taylor or Bobby, if either of you win this last round, you will be the hashtag champion of November 5th. So the last hashtag that we have is all votes matter.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 42,000.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 25,000.
All right, how about we say 30K.
30K. All right. Drum roll, moment we've all been waiting for. With the closest guess,
This has gotta be me.
will be the hashtag champion.
There we go.
All votes matter trended this morning with 58,000 uses. So, unfortunately, Taylor Fardad, I'm sorry about this. Bobby, congratulations. Congratulations to Bobby on being our third winner of the season. Come join us next week when we find the final winner for our next game of Hashtagged.
I don't know about you, Leanna, but I am just so ready for this race to be called. I know it might not be for a few more days, but I've just been so anxious. So I'm just hoping we know pretty soon.
I completely agree. I've been up every night till about 3 a.m. just waiting for something, and I guess we're just gonna have to wait.
I know, I'm in the same boat. Well, that wraps it up for us this Thursday. Thanks for tuning in.
From all of us at See It Live, have a good night.